there, welcome to the Hello Road podcast, where we talk about unique and forgotten cars, road trips, travel destinations, and our current car adventures. I'm Ethan.
I'm Paul.
And every once in a while, we invite guests into my humble little studio here in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles to talk cars, travel, racing, writing, and any other topic that suits our fancy, like maybe cucumber mint water, sparkling water. Yep.
Combined with IPA.
Okay.
It's great.
Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. It doesn't sound very tasty, but and today's one of those days where we're going to get to talk to somebody. And we have automotive journalist, old car enthusiast, new car reviewer, and dog lover, Elana Scherr here. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi, that's all very accurate.
Is it?
Except for the part about your studio being humble. I think you're really underselling it. It's quite nice in here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. There's guitars on the wall. It sort of projects an appearance that I know what I'm doing in terms of music, which can sometimes happen, but
Right.
yeah.
Y'all can't see it, but the ceiling is actually wood paneled as well as the floor. So if for some reason gravity reversed itself, you would be perfectly fine.
Yes, and actually the walls are wood paneled too. I just happen to have painted them. They were the same color as the ceiling, and it was just too much brown. But so we could even turn the room on its side, and it would still work.
No, that's crazy.
I don't know. It's pretty nuts. But you did not drive the Opel over here. What did you drive over here?
I drove the 1969 Dodge Polara, which I believe you've driven now.
I haven't driven.
Oh, you didn't drive. You rode.
Yeah, I rode in it. Yeah.
You could have driven it.
I could have driven it. I don't know why I didn't. It was pretty stupid.
Yeah, you panicked.
I did. I know. I don't know what to do.
It's going to be too fun.
It was just too big. I couldn't deal with it.
No, I did not drive the Opel, but the Opel is very close to here. We could probably wave to it.
Yes. Well, that's the funny thing. We realized not too long ago that we're neighbors. I could have yelled to you like, "Hey, we're going to start the podcast," and you would have heard me.
Yeah,
Yep.
or you
I
could have
think
said,
that's what you did.
Yes.
I would prefer you bring the Opel.
Yes, exactly.
I could have done that.
Yeah. It turns out we're neighbors. That's pretty nuts. And the Opel at this point has a slight problem.
I mean, it always has a slight problem. Any old car has a slight problem.
Sure.
Like if you looked at any single car that I own right now and you're like, do any of these not have any problems? The answer would be, of course not. That's silly. Why would you
Yes.
even ask such a dumb thing?
Sure.
But the Opel currently has a small fuel leak, and that is one of the few slight problems that I don't like to mess around with. So
Yes.
Also, people don't like it when you leak gas all over the place.
Yeah.
Like
that's
they'll
not great.
forgive you almost everything else, but like if you're leaking gas, they tend to be like, move this.
Yes, exactly. So the Polara, that is a large vehicle. I know that your history includes some Mopar in your. Is it sort of in your blood? Would you say, or just how did you stumble on the Chrysler Mopar side of things?
I mean, I didn't grow up in a car family, although we did have an old car when I was growing up. My mom had an Impala. But when I did get a car, the first car that I got, my neighbor helped me get, and he was into Chrysler products. So he helped me test drive and everything because I didn't have a driver's license. I was I was in college already. So I didn't have a driver's license. And so he had to help me test drive the cars because I wanted an old car. And I ended up buying a 73 Plymouth Duster. And that was the car that I started learning some mechanics on because basically I started breaking it before I could even legally drive it.
Yeah.
And then I started meeting car people from that car, and that kind of led to more cars and more car people, which led to more cars and more car people. So that's kind of how it works. So yeah, it was Chrysler's only for a long time, but I've expanded.
Okay. Yeah. And going back to your first kind of getting into cars. I remember hearing somewhere that you went to art school. Is that true?
That's totally true.
That is true.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, if you were to like go back to your time when you were back in art school and like maybe look at yourself today, would you be like sort of surprised that you're where you're at now, or I'm just sort of curious, like, did the art like lead to the cars at all, or is it just completely separate?
That is a really good question. I think that I would be surprised in some ways.
Yeah.
But to me, that it wasn't like a jump. It wasn't like I woke up one day and was like, I don't like art. I do like cars, and they don't connect to me. And I got the Duster when I was in college, so I was still in school. And even before I got the car, I was doing a lot of like photographs and paintings of cars.
Oh, okay.
Not even necessarily, like I'll look back at my old photography and I didn't even know what the cars were that I was taking photos of. Like I have this photo of, actually it's in our living room, it was a green 73 Roadrunner. And I only took the photo because it was this green car and it was parked on trash day in Hollywood. So the 3 green trash cans were like in front of the body of the car. And then it was like next to the 7-Eleven. So the lighting was all kind of green as well.
Yep.
And, I took that photo for the composition of the photo. Like I just saw it and was like, that's a thing that I want. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh, that Roadrunner was rad. But I didn't even know what
and
car
why are
it
those
was.
trash cans blocking it?
No, I still like the photo, but that still wasn't what caught my eye about it. So to me, there was crossover the whole way through. And I mean, I made, I still make stuff. For a while, I was making t-shirts with cars on them and stuff. And I worked for a sculptor doing mold making, which eventually led like a few years later to a job doing mold making for motorcycle body work. So carbon fiber mold making. So like the stuff all, I don't know. I was talking to somebody today and they were talking about how, you watch movies or you grow up thinking that these lightning strikes happen in your life and all of a sudden you move to like some next step, some adulthood or whatever, and that hasn't been my experience. And I don't think really that is the experience. I think it's all these like little steps and sometimes backward steps and side steps and things cross over and you never know what's going to be useful when.
Sure. You may have a path that you're heading towards and all of a sudden there's a separate path off through the woods on the side. You're like, oh, I'm going to just head that way for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Interesting.
And it might lead up to the same place you're going in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. So, I know we're talking about old vehicles and, anytime you're interested in old vehicles, you're interested in, probably dealing with the things that you need to fix, maybe having a breakdown or two. I'm curious. I have literally hundreds of breakdown stories. I'm curious, like, what might be like one of your most memorable car breakdown stories?
Oh man, there are a lot of them. I have less recent breakdown stories, just because my husband is a mechanic. And
sure. So you shouldn't have them.
I mean, we still have them. We still have them for sure. But I would say that my like most glorious ones were probably earlier when I was working on the car by myself.
Okay.
So, all right, let's come up with a couple of good ones. I had a 72 Dodge Challenger, and I was driving up to San Francisco for Thanksgiving to meet up with my friend Lily, and I was one of the freeways that ends with 580 maybe, but like basically right where the first train stop is that will take you all the way to San Francisco. And I heard this sound that was just like, I can't even describe it. It was like somebody had set loose a little league team underneath my car with aluminum bats and they were all going to town.
Yes.
Whoa. And so
were you scared or you just kind of like,
I was confused.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't my first breakdown.
Sure.
This is just one of the best.
Okay.
And so I coasted off to the side because one of the things that somebody told me very early in car ownership was basically there are only going to be a couple of times where your car's going to die and you can't roll to the side of the road. So don't hit the brakes, just roll to the side of the road and then figure out what's happening so that you aren't stopped in the middle of the freeway.
Sure.
So roll to the side of the road. I get out and I don't see anything at first, like under the car. And then all of a sudden I realize there's this like spreading pool of transmission fluid. And I look again and the drive shaft has totally, like the yoke totally shattered and the drive shaft is hanging in the emergency brake cable. Like the cross of the emergency brake cable has like caught the drive shaft. So that was what was making the noise was it was like swinging around because it was in the front that it broke.
Yeah.
So it's like I was going like 80 miles an hour. Like if it had hit the ground, it's like I don't even know what would have
happened. Launch the car.
So I got it towed to the train station. I took the train into San Francisco and then I went back with a buddy the next day and we changed the drive shaft yoke in the parking lot of the BART station. So that was a pretty good one.
That's rough.
I'm trying to think if there was I mean, they're, I feel like the best ones are always ones where you do manage to like get it back together, get it going again.
Yeah.
That same car, I blew up a coil, like the coil just popped on it on the 5. And so I ended up on the off ramp, but it was like, I was able to figure out what it was. Like I could look in, I could see I had fuel, and I could see that I didn't have spark by like putting a spark plug against the valve cover. And so I walked to a auto parts store. It was like a couple of miles, and like bought a coil and a adjustable wrench and like changed it on the.
Okay.
And
What car was that?
That was also that Challenger.
That was the Challenger.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had that car for a long time.
Okay. So you got pretty intimate with knowing how to those little issues that come up.
What other? I mean, I've definitely had to be rescued a few times. I blew up the I mean, I didn't do it. It just broke on my watch.
Yeah, you didn't do it. It was nothing to do with the way you did. No.
Tom's daily driver is a Cummins turbo diesel.
Yep.
And like a 12 valve. And
Yep.
I was way, like almost at the border with Mexico, like all the way south.
All right.
And the transmission broke in
Oh,
the middle
no.
of nowhere. It was like, I couldn't get it towed home, and it was like 100
That's too
something
far.
miles.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting it towed to this tiny little hot springs town, like super creepy,
Okay.
like no
Hills
cell
have
service
eyes.
there.
Yeah.
Like I called Tom, and I was like, this is what we're doing. And he's like, all right, I'm going to put the trailer behind our other truck. And I'm going to come get you, but it's going to be like,
a while.
several hours.
Yep.
And he had to print out the directions because he wasn't gonna be able to call me once he was there. And so then I was just sitting there with the night clerk in this like super sketchy motel who like kept being like, what do you know about snipers? Like, nothing, like a normal person.
Exactly.
Like, no things. So that was just a straight up rescue.
Yeah.
But I was really glad that it was truly busted, because I was really worried that he was going to come all that way and then be like,
you're out of gas.
so pinion snubber.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. What
about you guys? I want
Oh, geez.
are there some that you haven't told before?
I think I've told all of them. I'm not sure because I had a drive shaft one that I talked about last week, and that was a drive shaft that came out of my Buick 66 Buick Special, and it popped out when I was going down the 101 freeway, and that wasn't really that other than like the drive shaft flying out of the back of the car and me worrying that it was going to like impale some other car. And
so it left you completely,
it
like
left.
full divorce.
Yes. Yeah. This car was, it had a 464 and it had like a completely different rear end. It had a different custom drive shaft. So we sort of engineered it to be something that it wasn't supposed to be. And I'm not an engineer, so obviously I didn't do it right because the drive shaft came out. But yeah, it flew back. I drove over it. This big, huge tractor trailer drove over it. And then the funny part was that the next week I went to go, or a couple days later, I went to go to find the drive shaft because I wanted to retrieve it. And I drive down the 101, have my truck there, and I get out and I find it. There it is. I'll put it in the back of my truck. And then I drive literally 20 seconds later. There's another drive shaft. And like, oh, that's the drive shaft. So then I get out and I take the drive shaft in my truck, put that one back on the side of the road in case somebody else wants to retrieve it, and I take my drive shaft. So that was an interesting
Maybe the other one would have fit better.
It might have. I don't know. It was when I picked it up, I was like, this feels like a truck drive shaft. Is this what I really had? I don't know. So I should have kept both of them, but yeah, that car's long gone. I realized that car made me realize that I'm a terrible mechanic, and I'm totally fine with that. But I should have learned from that to not continue to buy vehicles, but I did. Unfortunately, things like that happen, I guess. Yeah.
I have one that I haven't really talked about before. It was it's a coincidental thing. My wife used to own this 2003 Ford Focus. It was her first brand new car that she bought after her Volkswagen that was her first car caught fire a couple times.
Yes.
So this is, years and years of ownership later here. We're talking like the car is 10 or 11 years old at this point, and it had the radiator replaced. And when it did, the shop that did the work, I think they must have put in the wrong one or something, because there was an extra port on the radiator. And what had happened was, over time, they put a little like rubber plug over it, and over time it would just deteriorate. And when it did that, all of the coolant would spill out. So there's two parts to this story, much like your drive shaft story. We were one summer evening, went to I forgot what the place was, the drive-through place in Glendora, to get something to eat. And as we pulled up to the window, the light came on that her car was overheating. And I was like, what's going on? And so I got out, and all over the drive-through was coolant, all of the coolant in the car. So I then pushed the car out of the drive-through to the parking lot and had to get rescued.
Okay.
So that's one thing. But here's the thing that made it coincidental. We didn't go back to that place because we were like, oh, we're probably banned from there. We can't go there again. So we're like, after this is the next year, maybe 2 years later, the car's obviously been fixed. We're in the drive-through, and the same thing happens. What? Exact same thing.
Whoa.
It blew its little plug and pissed the coolant out everywhere. So again, I pushed the car, and I'm sure we have a picture up in that restaurant that we are not allowed to come there in a silver 2003 Focus. That is no longer with us. It's gone.
Yes.
So, but it was just kind of a coincidental thing. And again, had to get the car towed and then go to AutoZone and buy the little $5 pack of plugs. And I can almost remember which size when it goes. It goes on, and then a little worm drive clamp goes on it. And you're good for a year
while.
until it deteriorates and then blows up at the most inconvenient times.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah.
That's rough.
It was. It was very rough because the car was overheating, and it was just like, what are we going to do? Oh, well, we got to push it out of the drive-thru first.
Well, I guess the most important thing is, did you actually have dinner?
You know what? I think we did.
Okay, that's good.
We did get it, and we were eating while we were waiting for the tow truck to come and tow it back to her house or my house, wherever it was that we were at the time. So.
All right. Yeah, that's rough. We have so many more that we could talk about. But
I mean, you could have an entire podcast that was just sharing those.
I know. Speaking of fixing cars, I think anybody that's interested in that probably needs to take a look at your backyard, because I mean,
hopefully on Instagram and not via
not
stalking.
actually like going there like, oh, just go to her address is no. But you've got several project cars back there, and just a really incredible shop. Can you tell me like what you have going on back there in terms of like projects and that kind of thing?
Well, so when we bought the house, Tom had a 8x10 piece of paper, and he drew over like 2/3 of it a stick figure garage.
Yes,
and then he put a little tiny house in the corner. And then he handed it to the realtor, and he said, "This is what we want."
Yeah.
And she wasn't quite able to find that, but she did find us a large backyard. And so we put up a garage. And originally, it was going to be 40x80.
Okay.
It was a pre-metal or pre-built metal building.
Yeah.
And we got like shut down on permit, so it's 40x40. But it's
tiny.
It's too small.
You do have a lot of transmissions in there. I was just looking. There's like a row of transmissions.
Oh my God, there's way too much everything in there. But there's too many trucks in there is the problem.
Yeah.
But so we've got the big garage. We've got 3 large Dodge trucks, a dump truck and 2 ramp trucks.
Yes.
And then we have what a normal person would consider a large Dodge truck, which is the yellow dually.
Yes, that is quite one.
That is a Radwood favorite.
Yes.
And then we have a Ford Wrecker, 65 Ford Wrecker, a Myers Manx project, a 70 Dodge Challenger, and I just bought an 81 Turbo Trans Am.
Yes. Yeah,
and there's a couple of other guys sitting around there too.
I do really like that Trans Am. It's very brown.
It's so brown.
It's very brown.
Like it's more than triple brown. It's like quadruple brown.
Yes, exactly.
And what else? And we just did some wiring in the garage so that Tom has a lathe, like a mill and a lathe, and so the lathe works now, and it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Now we're gonna carve up some metal.
Yes, totally.
Just spacers. That's all we're gonna do.
You just need lots of spacers.
Do you need any spacers? Excuse me.
Yes.
Hi.
I could use some. You could use some spacers on your Honda Fit. There you go.
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you want this table to be like just like a
little bit
inches higher?
Yeah, spacers. I could put some on my drum set. Maybe. Yeah, we could find spacers.
Who doesn't need spacers?
I know. I'm just looking around all the different applications for spacers. I could lift up my beer can just slightly.
Yeah.
Little
more convenient.
Beer metal cozy. That'd be really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what sort of started the infatuation with ramp trucks and big? Is that you, or is that?
I mean, I would say that it is shared, but it is really like if it was up to me, I don't think I would have pursued ramp trucks.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, was it like 8 years ago when Don Prudhomme found and started restoring the Hot Wheels ramp trucks? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The yellow and red Hot Wheels ramp trucks that they hauled funny cars in 1970. It was the Snake and Mongoose. It was like the first big drag racing sponsorship.
Well, it's funny because I don't know anything about drag racing. My limited experience with drag racing is taking my 2016 Toyota Prius to the drag strip. So
how'd you do?
it was not great. It was fun. I've never done drag racing before. It was tons of fun. But so I don't think I actually remember that. I'm trying to remember because I had tons of Hot Wheels cars and Matchbox cars.
I mean,
when I was a kid,
it was before any of us.
Okay.
In terms of like being available, but they're famous enough that people tend to recognize
we probably
them if they're
should
collectors.
know if they are.
Yeah.
Well, you can look them up later, but basically, the short version is drag racing was kind of rough and rowdy and very in industry in terms of what who was watching it and who was sponsoring it or supporting it. And in 1970, these two racers, Tom McEwen and Don Prudhomme, were kind of the first to bring outside sponsorship in the form of Mattel Hot Wheels. And Mattel took the race cars and made little tiny race cars and racing sets. And it was a big deal. Like, I mean, it was rad. It was like a serious marketing genius because not only did like the racers get their race cars made into little cars, but every sticker that was on the race car was put on the little toy cars. So they were able to sell additional sponsorship because everyone wanted their little decal to be on the toy cars. So, they had Plymouth support, they had,
that's
Wynn's
great.
oil support, like they had wheel support, like everybody. So it was sort of the beginning of motorsport sponsorship as like we know it now. Because I don't even think that like sports car racing had that kind of sponsorships. So, so anyway, it was a big deal. And, I don't know how long ago it was. Don Prudhomme found the old trucks and restored them and then sold them at Barrett-Jackson. And so we were following that restoration just because we thought it was so cool. I mean, it's like, you gave me bubbly water right before podcast.
I know
it's a bad idea.
Well, that's why we're holding the microphone so we can just turn away when we need to expel some gases. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, when I'm not burping, and I am telling you drag racing stuff. So anyway, he restored the trucks, and they were really cool. And it was right around the time that just car haulers in general were like getting a lot of coverage. I think maybe because everybody was, I'm not going to say burnt out on covering the race cars themselves, but there's only so many times that you can tell the story of like a Shelby car, but then somebody had the Shelby hauler and that was like this big deal, right? Because all of a sudden everybody was finding these cool old photos of the transporters with the race cars on them. And it was just like a different way of looking at and thinking about the story. Because all of a sudden you're imagining what everybody did on the way to the racetrack, like what music does Dan Gurney listen to on his drive to the racetrack or whatever. And so we were into those trucks and started looking for one. And there aren't very many. I mean, not that many people had them. I mean, Richard Petty had one and a couple of other NASCAR teams did, and Sox and Martin had one. But for the most part, people had smaller trucks, not the big giant ramp trucks. And so we eventually found one, which ended up being another famous racer's truck.
Really?
Although we didn't know that at the time. Oh. It was Dick Landy's Pro Stock hauler from the 1970 season. And so we got that truck. And then it was like, all of a sudden, after getting one truck, it was like all these other trucks show up.
Look at this, there's more.
Just kind of like kept buying them. So anyway, I think we're out of room for more ramp trucks. So don't send me any more ramp trucks for sale.
Just find some things to put on the ramps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So then
I'm sorry I gave you guys a lecture about Hot Wheels history.
No, that's awesome.
I'm here to learn. Let's talk about writing a little bit. So you're writing a book, correct?
I am.
Yes. And what is the book about?
Well, conveniently enough, since I've given you the backstory, it's about Don Prudhomme.
I thought that might be a good segue.
Cool.
I was trying to create some sort of
So I'm working with Don
magical
Prudhomme
segue.
and we're writing his biography, which is the first time I've ever tried anything like that.
Okay.
It's really freaking hard.
Yeah. I don't think I would like to do that, but it sounds like a great big undertaking.
Sometimes I like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to really like it when it's done.
Yeah, exactly. So how did your passion for writing get started? I mean, obviously did that kind of happen simultaneous with the passion for vehicles, or is this sort of a separate story?
Well, I've always been a reader. I mean,
Uh-huh.
always like I was talking to a friend recently who I hadn't seen since we were little kids, and she's like, "Yeah, do you remember I used to come over to my house and then you would just read books in my bedroom instead of playing with me?" I was like, "Yeah, that sounds right." So I've always been a reader, and I didn't plan to go into journalism or even literature, although I did. I mean, I studied that when I was at art school as well,
Okay.
like as a minor, but not journalism, but writing.
Sure.
But then when I started doing the car stuff, and one of the ways that I got into the car stuff was reading magazines about cars.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you read the magazine, you're like, I don't understand any of this. But then like a year later, you read the same magazine, you're like, oh, I understand all of this.
Yeah.
When did that happen? So I thought that was really cool that magazines could teach that much and could share those stories and make,
Yeah.
like I was just like, oh, all of a sudden I know about sports car racing. This is amazing. Or,
Yeah.
like drag racing. And so when when I was doing car stuff and trying to figure out where I fell in the car community, I mean, I did a little bit of mechanical work. I worked at a shop for a summer, and then I worked in the motorcycle stuff, did all that carbon work.
Yeah.
But honestly, I was always better at helping explain stuff than I really was at doing it. Like I can do it. I am not the worst mechanic I've ever met. But I'm also not the best mechanic, and I don't really enjoy it. Like like when you meet a good mechanic and you see them working and they just understand how stuff works without taking it apart, like they can just see it already and they go into it with a vision about how they're going to fix it, and the tools just seem to like fall into place in their hands. And then you try it yourself and you're just like, yeah, well, nobody can see me right now, but I'm making a lot of funny faces and like weird gestures with my limbs.
Sure.
But
exactly.
basically,
you can't get that second bolt off. You're like,
and it's like after you've dropped the wrench like 6 times, you're like, maybe somebody would be better at this. Someone else. So, but I found quite good at explaining to other people what a good mechanic was doing.
Sure.
And that started with a job in PR, which was very helpful. I learned a lot. I didn't enjoy doing. And then the whole time I wanted to be writing in a magazine. Because like I said, I'd been reading these car magazines. I was like,
sure.
I bet I should do that.
Yeah.
Like, do women do that? I don't think women do that. But I'm like, maybe a woman could do it. Like, I don't see a reason why they couldn't.
Yeah. So. Was that ever an issue for you, thinking that like gender was an issue?
So I was my own biggest block in it because I just didn't know of any other women who were doing it. There were some other women who were doing it, and I did eventually, find out and meet some of them. Jean Jennings was writing for Automobile, but there weren't very many. And then I think it did take me longer to get a chance to do it than it might have taken me had I not been a woman, but I cannot prove that.
Sure.
Like no one ever clearly said to me like, I don't want you for this job because you're a girl.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the way that stuff works is it's always somewhat deniable. But
sure.
Once I did get a chance to do it, which was David Freiberger hired me at Hot Rod, it was like I really didn't have any problems.
Yeah.
Moving
That's great.
forward.
Yeah. And now you're doing stuff. You're doing a lot of things. You're running. You look at your everything. I know you look at your Instagram bio and it says, "All right for you. All right for anybody." That's what it sounds like you're doing. But you're also doing a lot of work for Edmunds. Is that a big part of what you're working on now?
Yeah, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, before I went freelance, I mean, I've loved every step of what I've done writing about cars and working with cars. Like there's none of it where I've been like, oh, that bit was bad. So I was at Hot Rod for a long time and then I was with Roadkill, and both of those were just unbelievable fun.
Yeah, it sounds
ridiculous.
like it.
But since I went freelance, I got the job with Edmunds, which is a consumer support site, so a review site, and like a shopping site.
Yep.
And so I've been driving a lot of new cars.
Yep.
Which has been really fun, actually. I mean, and people will be like, "Oh, how can you go from like hot rods to driving like, you know, like minivans and SUVs?" I'm like, "Wow." I mean, I haven't driven them before, so it's fun, and they have all this crazy technology, and you can like play with it, and you can like mess with them, and like see if they'll let you floor it and like brake stand it. Most of them won't, but like it's interesting to see like where they decide they won't. And by the way, Nissan will let you do that.
Okay, I tried it in the Prius at the drag strip. It made a big clunk sound that I did not like. So there's a few cars you can't do that with.
No, but I like playing with the tech, and I like things like air conditioning, which...
Oh, that's lovely. I know it's nice to have it. Do any of your current vehicles have air conditioning?
There are a couple that have air conditioning, but
From the factory?
None of the ones that I'm driving have air conditioning that works.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, you can always get that. You can get that at your with these new vehicles.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's important. It's important to remember where I came from.
Yes, exactly.
Which is a place with a really sweaty back.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's great. Yeah, your videos are great on those. I really enjoy watching them.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing your Telluride review.
Oh yes, yes.
Well, that wasn't a secret, right?
No, it's not a secret.
Okay, good.
It's actually up. Yeah.
Oh,
it just went up not too long ago.
I'll have to go look for it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just gonna watch yours and mine side by side and see which of us did it better. No, I'm gonna be like, ooh, I should steal that idea.
Yes. Well,
That's a good idea.
I steal ideas from everybody. So
that's how it works.
Yes, exactly. I think Edmunds needs to give you some more. You should probably be reviewing more sports cars, though. I think. I think you need to do a few more of the fun cars. I'd love to see you do. I'm not sure unless you have. Maybe I've missed it.
No. I think I did the Challenger Red Eye drive.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell all my contacts at Edmunds I like to see you drive some Corvettes and Mustangs and stuff. I don't know anybody there.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm sure that they would let me do that.
Yeah.
I think for the most part we're in SUVs because that's what people are buying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep, totally. Nice.
I certainly won't turn down any Corvettes or Mustangs that come my way. So if you're out there wondering what you should do with some Corvettes or Mustangs that you currently have,
you have plenty of space in your driveway.
Plenty of space.
Yeah. I don't want to hog all the question asking, but I do have one more. Tell us about your new YouTube channel. Speaking of videos.
Oh yeah. So Tom and I started a YouTube channel. Right now it's still called Challenge Her, which is the same as my Instagram because it seemed easiest for everybody. But I've been trying to convince him that we should change it to Challenge Them since, it's both of us.
You. Yeah,
it's not just me.
Yep.
But so far, it's basically stuff that we're just doing in the garage anyway. We're trying to kind of explain it, hopefully in a way that is helpful to people who do know what they're doing, but also isn't too far above a beginner's understanding.
Sure.
So we're kind of trying to play off each other in that way, because obviously for him as a mechanic, he could go
super
way deep into it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to imagine what the questions were that I had when I first started, or showcase some of the things that were difficult for me to understand when I was first learning about it. Yeah. And hopefully that's helpful to the viewers too.
Yeah. And is the idea that you'll be focusing mainly on older hot rods and classic cars and that kind of thing, or just kind of anything?
I think it's going to be anything that comes in. We were just talking about maybe showing how he fixed his brother's truck, which is like a 2013 Ram or something like that. Because the trailer brakes had stopped working, and it's like a really, I can't remember exactly, but it was like a very complicated fix involving an extremely expensive factory module, but there is a way around it. And so we were like, oh, we could do that one, that might be useful to people. So there's no rules to it. It's just the stuff that's up there right now happens to be 60s Chrysler engine stuff because it's just what we've been working on.
Yeah. And you think it's going to be mainly focused on fixing things? Is that kind of the idea, or just maybe can morph into whatever you guys want to work on?
I think it's more, the goal of it is to try and make something that's just basically if you came over to our house
Sure.
on an afternoon, this is like what might be happening there. So we do want to try and do some test drives. We plan to do walkarounds and like drives of all the cars that we have.
Oh, nice.
And then like you came over the other day with Derek, and we did. We had so much fun, like swapping. Everybody swapped cars,
That's fun.
and we all just went around the block.
Yeah,
like, it was not a big deal. Like nobody was caning anything. It wasn't any kind of show off thing, but it was so fun to drive 3 totally different
Completely
cars,
different
back
cars.
to back, never been in them before. And like, I really enjoyed your Nova. Like I told a bunch of people about it afterwards, like it just was cool. So we might try and incorporate some of that into in a video form as well to try and,
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I don't know. Friendly. I just want to make a friendly channel.
Sure.
I feel like everybody's stuff is aggressive.
Yeah, that can happen. Yeah. Speaking of aggressive, you got some salacious, or some aggressive, hard hitting questions. You can ask?
Yeah.
Hit me with it.
The hardest hitting of all so far.
Yes, exactly.
So, through this conversation we've had, it's obvious that you're a big fan of Dodge and that whole and Plymouth, all those fun things along those lines. So, let's say you were given complete control of the company as it stands right now.
Oh, okay.
So, theoretically, this is a
Theoretical.
Okay,
This is one of the
yeah.
famous Paul theoretical questions.
This is already a hard question.
Yeah,
Go
I
on.
know.
What would you change? What would you do to make the company have the same sort of the allure it had in the 1960s?
Well, I mean, if I truly knew how to do that, I would not be sitting in this garage with you boys.
Yeah, exactly.
I would be, but so I don't know about the second part of that, but first of all, I think contemporary Dodge, Ram, Jeep is a good, like, there are problems with all of the the OEMs right now, but that is I like what they're doing right now. Like, I love the Hellcats. I mean, love them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Hellcats are some of the funnest new cars I have driven in my whole time driving cars.
And I can tell you're serious because you actually kind of lean forward a little bit
No,
when you're
they're
talking
really
about,
good. It's like they're genuinely fun. The vibe off them is good.
Yeah.
I like that it requires a little bit of an old car driving skill set in order to get the best out of them. I get to sit around feeling smug because I can launch one and everybody else is like, oh, the tires just go up in smoke. And I was like, well, yeah, if you've been driving a Corolla and you floor it everywhere, like, it's not going to work that way. But so I think that, and I've done a lot of stories with Jeep and with Dodge, and the people who work there, like the engineers, are totally in it. Like, they're awesome people. Like I love their press trips. Their PR team believes in it and is rad. Their engineers are really fun. They drive old cars. They're into old cars. They know their own history. I mean, it's great. Like, they're super cool people. They're always willing to explain stuff. They're very like honest and transparent with explaining how things work and what their challenges are. If I was like big boss, I would say that my concerns about Chrysler and actually about all of the American car companies is that shit is expensive. All of it, even their cheap cars. Like, everybody's gotten rid of their cheap cars. So like,
Oh,
how
yes,
do you,
exactly. How much is the new Blazer? The new Blazer's pretty expensive, isn't it?
50
Or like
some-
if you spec it out, it can be
High
over
40s,
50s.
I think?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just it's like, what are you supposed to? How are you supposed to get into a car if they don't make
Mitsubishi
any?
Mirage.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, like so I feel like, and I also feel Chrysler isn't the worst about this. Some of the other cars are worse, but like you were just in the Korean cars, and they're doing a lot where it's just like you get all the stuff.
Yep.
Like, we're not gonna pick this little thing and that little thing and build the price up. Like, if you buy the car, you get all the stuff.
Right.
And I think that that's a good move because it's confusing otherwise. Like, I wouldn't even know how to outfit some of the new cars that I've driven because
Sure.
I'm like, this thing that I like, can I get that alone? Or is that part of like some dumb package that I don't even want the rest of?
That's what I liked about the Hyundai Santa Fe. Is like even the base model, I'm doing a review on the base model, it comes with a lot of stuff. And then I was researching Chevy Silverados, and there were like 9 different trim levels or something. I couldn't figure it out.
No,
it was so many, and it was like
wild.
Yeah, it was insane. I totally get it. Yep.
So that's one thing is I would look at pricing and try and figure out how I could get that excitement, those like performance, like that performance energy in a package that somebody could buy as a first car. And then another thing that I think, and again, this is, I think, an American car problem. Like everything is big and heavy.
Yes.
So and I know that they think whatever, like the gas prices aren't going to change and everyone's going to keep having money, but I don't think that's true. So I feel like it's possible to love performance in an old school American way, but still be okay with the idea of trying out some new technologies and maybe not totally ignoring the fact that it would be good if things weighed less and used less fuel.
Yep.
So I don't know. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it totally does.
That was a hard question.
Yeah, and he always has really difficult
I
questions.
just have the aggressive question.
Yeah, the
It
aggressive.
was.
Yes,
the aggressive ones.
Yes.
I mean, the one answer I was expecting the Viper has to come back for a 4th time. But I mean, you think about it, and it's kind of a sad thing out there right now. Chevrolet's got the brand new C8, which looks great and everything. Ford's got their fast Mustangs, and I mean, there's the Hellcat, which is a nice, really quick car, but the Viper was kind of their true, real sports car, and it's missing again. And I think with each generation of that car, it got. I don't want to say it got better because the first ones were so rad with like the what was it, the plastic windows that they had and it just.
The last one was pretty rad though. Like of all of the cars that I wish that I could own, like if you were just like were like, here's $100,000 and also you have another $100,000 to deal with insurance and buying tires.
Yes.
Then like at the car.
It's a lot of tires.
Yes, you need a tire budget for that.
Well, they are expensive because I did once have one that I got a nail in the tire, and so I was having to price out replacement tires, and it's like $600.
Whoa.
For a tire, one tire.
That's crazy.
So,
Wow, that's an expensive.
yeah.
Very expensive.
But yes, the Viper is a beautiful thing that I miss very much. I don't care if they bring the Viper back, but I would like to see them do some kind of sports car again.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, not that the Challenger's not a sports car. I mean, but just like something that would be all around. You'd have the speed, you'd have the agility of it, and even the lower weight.
Yeah, I would say the Challenger is not a sports car. I mean, I love the Challenger. I would happily drive a Challenger. I think that I mean. There's a dude who took one at Pikes Peak, so clearly the thing can handle. But to me, a sports car is a lightweight 2-seater.
Sure, exactly. Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Okay. Well, what other hard-hitting questions can I just think of off the top of my head?
Lean over to your laptop.
As I lean over to my laptop.
That's unrelated.
Yes, exactly.
Fell asleep.
Yeah.
All right. So with working at Edmunds and driving some of the newer stuff around, has there been a car that maybe is perceived by the general public as an unglamorous car, but you found some glamour in it, like Mitsubishi Mirage?
I like the Mirage.
I don't know if glamour would be the right word, but I was surprised how much I liked the Toyota Corolla hatchback with the manual.
Okay.
Yep.
Not fast.
Yep.
Not even particularly handsome. I mean, it was kind of a dopey looking car. Like it looks like one of those little, do you know those little plastic frogs with the tab on them where you'd hit the little tab and then the frog would jump?
Yes.
Yeah. I can see that now.
So it looks
The
a little
Toyota
bit like
tab
that.
frog jumper.
But
Yes.
I had such a good time driving it. Like just because it was, you could just paint it everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you could just like floor it and wind it out everywhere, and you still weren't going that fast.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
think
it was
that's
really
that
fun.
kind of resonates with us a lot. We had a whole
Yeah.
episode on slow car fast. You know, that's kind of what we're into. So yeah, that sounds like a good one to check out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing, like with car companies, that I like to see. You know, with Toyota doing that, you know, making the manual available, not just giving it an automatic and
Yeah,
putting a sport badge on it. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I think there needs to be a lot more of out there with all the other companies, big three especially. And I mean, unless you're Ford and you don't have any cars you're selling anymore, you're only selling.
Well, their
SUVs
their
and
new
trucks.
SUVs are looking a little car-like.
yeah,
I mean, and I would have to say that I am not. I mean, I do love a good manual, but I don't think that every car has to have a manual. I don't think the only way to have a good driving experience is in a manual. I'm not anti-automatic. Like,
sure.
I don't like. I'd actually like to move away from that mindset of making people feel bad if they can't drive stick or making them feel like they don't understand something about
Yeah.
car culture. But if you do get a car with a stick and you enjoy driving stick,
Yeah,
it's great, you know. And if a car is available in a stick, like it's a lot of fun.
yeah. It's a nice option to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Okay, probably the hardest question I've got. For
Okay,
you.
geez, they're getting more difficult.
this is-
Okay.
This is like
Yeah, you like got me all
Yeah,
relaxed
I'll make
with like
this
the
easy,
softballs
like,
that were like,
yeah.
tell me
Yep.
about your
You're
feel-
writing a book.
Your feelings.
You're writing a book.
You're like you're great. Tell me about things you love.
Yeah,
And here
this is what are we? Good cop, back up, good in. No, I don't, I
yeah,
don't know.
Yeah.
good.
I don't know.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one's about dogs.
Ah, yep.
Okay, if you had the choice between living with 50 dogs or living with the burden of 50 cars, they could be project cars, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a rough one.
As
Well,
a dog lover.
I think actually it's not that hard because I would definitely take like 50 cars over 50 dogs because I don't think that I could personally do right by 50 dogs
Yeah,
and
that'd be
50
very
dogs
difficult.
would suffer.
Yeah.
Whereas 50
20
cars.
dogs. 20 cars.
yeah,
I mean,
That's true.
yeah.
I was thinking too big earlier when I was like 50. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good number for dogs.
Although I do follow a Twitter account called her name is Blair Braverman, and she's a musher, a dog musher, like a
Oh, okay.
sled dog
Yep.
racer. And I think they have like 50 dogs, but
Okay.
they live on like a ranch in Montana
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
like that.
yep. All right.
Fair enough. Okay, I guess it wasn't that hard. See, that's what I
Yeah.
did.
It was
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It was hard because, you know,
What are you gonna? Yeah.
I
Where
mean,
are
I
those
had
50
to
dogs
speak
gonna go?
against dogs
Yeah, that
for a
was rough.
second.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
And where are these theoretical dogs going to end up? Are they in the shelter? I mean, that would be awful. Yeah, we got to think
Man.
about that too.
Making me feel bad over
No, the dogs are fine.
They're
the dogs
fine.
are fine.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
These
yes.
theoretical dogs.
But yeah.
They were mean dogs anyway.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
was thinking. So I got one more for you, and it's kind of. I've asked this question a few times to our guests, and it's just kind of getting a lay of the land when it comes to what the future is going to be holding. So, of the current crop of cars that are around right now, so within the last 10, 15 years, what do you think would be considered like a cult car in the future that's not the typical Corvette, the Honda S2000, what do we got out there? What's going to be in future Ethan and future Paul's garage that, is a Toyota Nova twin cam or a Daihatsu Charade?
Ooh,
So
this is
Yeah.
fun. Okay. So not like a Civic Type R. Like that's already too cool.
that's already too cool. That's
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
something,
something a little bit more obscure, something a little bit like that people might. I bet 25 years from now, people might think, "Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that," but now that I'm remembering it, it's something that
Maybe like
I
a-
should have liked back
like a
in the day.
Volkswagen Alltrack,
Okay. Yeah.
like a little off-road wagon.
all track tribe.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
that
a good
could be.
one.
Yep.
You see that now with, those cars are kind of, like the Outbacks and stuff that get all lifted and done up to go do fun things in the dirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else?
When we talked about this with ourselves, we had weird choices. I chose the Mitsubishi
Oh, yeah.
because that's one of those ones you're like, Oh yeah, they made that. That was
Sure.
kind of interesting. It was kind of they tried something, maybe
Yeah.
didn't succeed, but one of those just
Real niche cars.
Yeah.
Real
Well,
niche.
I feel like a lot of the early electrics would probably fall into that
yeah.
category, right? Because they're
Okay.
pretty wild looking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the Volt Crew, in 2035 that's running around in Gen 1 Chevy Volts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a thing. Okay. Oh, that works.
Also, maybe like Nissan Frontier trucks.
Okay.
Because it's like the simplest truck you could possibly get right now.
Sure. And they've been making the same truck for the last 10, 15
And they
years.
like
I think.
look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're selling really well.
Yeah,
for
because they're
that.
the cheapest truck you can get.
Exactly. Yeah. That's funny.
It is crazy that is the cheapest truck you can get because I've been seeing so many of the new Rangers driving around. I
I
probably
haven't seen
see
any.
Really?
Yeah. They all in your neck of the woods.
I guess they all are. I see 5 to 10 of them a day.
Wow.
Like, do you guys feel like each of your neighborhoods has a particular common car? I mean, aside from maybe like a Prius, which I feel like I see everywhere.
Yeah.
Besides the Prius and a Model 3, I see it.
Oh yeah. Model 3s, I see those everywhere in LA. Well,
I
we're
don't
kind of in
feel
the
like
same
I don't
neighborhood.
see them that much in our neighborhood. Like
that's
the
true.
Teslas. I see them once I get on the 405,
freeway,
but
yeah.
I don't
That's true.
see them so much
This
here.
neighborhood, I think maybe kind of much like your neighborhood because it's pretty much the same neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people with in this neighborhood that have a passion for older cars. So
Yeah.
I see a lot of older cars in this neighborhood. I think possibly because the yards are slightly larger and there's room to put all your projects in the backyard and forget about them every once in a while. But in terms of new cars, geez, I don't know. Other than the Prius, which there's one in our driveway, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah, over with me, there's a lot of Priuses and a lot of Model 3s. My neighborhood, I think there's 2 or 3 of them already. And then just in and around the area I live, I see them constantly. Whether or not it's the same one, I don't know. Because they don't offer a very, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of colors for the car. It's always like a black one or a dark blue or a dark red.
You have to put a little like chalk mark on the tire so
Yeah.
you can like tell if it's the same
That's
one.
the same one. I see a lot of those, a lot of Model 3s and a lot of Priuses. But at the same time, a lot of trucks where I'm at, it's kind of a horse city, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've been seeing a lot of the Rangers driving
Okay,
around.
that
Ton
makes
of them. And
sense.
then the Frontiers too. I see a lot of those and just other trucks, a lot of trucks.
Yeah, I feel like I see a lot of like trucks that are probably bigger than people need around here.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
I used to have one of those.
I
Sorry.
mean,
Well, that's
It's
the
gone
I
now.
can't really talk. I have 6 of
You
them.
have, and many of them are larger than any of the trucks in all of LA.
Yeah, no, so.
Yeah.
like you look at the new Silverados or the Sierras and they're massive.
Yeah.
It's in comparison to like the Ranger, like I look at those and those kind of look like an F-150 from like 97 and
Yeah,
so like in terms of the
exactly.
size.
Yep.
My dad has a 2000 Ford Ranger. So it's little tiny thing, no jump cab or anything. And, it's a small little truck and nobody makes those anymore. And
Yeah.
at least for us in the United States, but it's something that I think needs to come back.
I think we talked about this before. There's so many cars in other markets that I look at and I wish they were sold here. I understand maybe the reasons why they're not. The dealer, dealers don't think they would sell. The manufacturers don't think they would sell. But there's a lot of kind of small to medium sized cars that are sold in Japan. We talked about all the different Toyotas that are available in Japan that have, this perfect like almost original Scion XB size cars that are hybrids that get good gas mileage. They have really great use of space. I think that's what, we have things like the Toyota CHR is probably the car that makes me the angriest to look at. Like, I don't mind the idea of the car, but like it just makes me a little bit angry because if you just were to give it a little bit more space in the back, it could be so much more useful. I think that's probably not a bad size of a vehicle, but it just has terrible space usage. So there's so many cars that I wish that would come over here, and maybe if they like I think the original Scion XB was a surprise to a lot of people of how well it's sold. And I wish that some of these manufacturers would take more risks with stuff like that and bring over some, or maybe the domestics design some things that are a little bit more risky that seem to sell well in other markets. So makes me a little sad. I want to basically, what I'm trying to say is that if Toyota made a new Scion XB that was a hybrid that got good gas mileage, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would you? Do either of you own a car that you bought new?
I own two. I bought a 2005 Scion XB and I still have it. And we have a 2016 Toyota Prius. We still have it, and it makes me mad. That's the only car that I don't really like. Yeah. And it's not because it's not the typical stereotypical car enthusiasts have to hate Priuses. I just don't really fit in it very well, and it's not very comfortable. That's it. How about you?
I mean, you are an unreasonable size.
Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah.
I've never bought a new car.
Okay.
I've never even owned anything that wasn't carbureted.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's that fuel injection. That's I know you can't trust that stuff.
I think only the diesels.
Yeah.
The diesels have
exactly.
it.
Okay. Nice.
Paul?
Very good. Yeah. I've bought
A few
new cars, and then I do something like decide I don't like it and then get rid of it, which is
You've done that a handful of times.
Yeah, a handful. But
That is a poor financial decision.
It is. But this last car I bought, my Fit, I bought it used.
Yes.
But it only had 7,000 miles on it, so it was like it was new. And then the cars for my wife don't count because she keeps her cars forever. Like her Focus she had for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then now she's got a wonderful 2013 CRV that has been fine, ran like a top for the past 6 years she's owned the thing, or however many years. I can't do math. So that's the only other new car. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I can go down the list of new cars that I bought and then decided I didn't like. The only new car that I bought that I kept for a very long time was my Mini Cooper.
Okay.
I had that car for 8 years. I loved it to death. I cried the day I traded it for a Mazda 2. And then that started the slew of new car purchases
that you didn't keep for very
that
long.
I didn't keep for.
You just wanted to you just wanted to pay out that depreciation and get out of it. Yeah.
Just
I mean, I'm sure the dealers around you appreciate it.
Yeah, they did. They really did, especially the one that I got the Fiesta ST from. I didn't really do good on that deal.
No. Okay. Oh well. We should end this on an up note though. Yeah. What a car you have your Daihatsu and you love it. So yeah, out of your fleet, what would you say is kind of the one you're most that warms your heart the most right now?
Oh man, I'm fond of all of them, really.
Okay.
Like I don't play favorites, but the weather's starting to get a little bit colder, which is making me really want to take the Challenger out.
Okay. All right. So. When was the last time you drove it?
I mean, I drove it the other day briefly. But it's not a summer car.
Yeah. Again, no air conditioning. Get a little warm in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So. Nice.
Yep. Kind of the same thing with the Daihatsu. It doesn't like the summer. It's too hot, and there's no AC. And
that's the thing with the Nova. Also, the AC doesn't work. So, yeah. All right.
Well, then you're just watching your plastic, going like, "Ooh."
Yeah, exactly.
Is it going to crack in front of me?
I know, and that's the thing with all the cars. Fan of cars from the 80s and 90s, and you can't get replacement parts for any of those dash parts. So once they're cracked, they're done. Yep. So yeah, keep my Nova in the garage as much as possible.
It's one thing about an 81 Trans Am. You can get a lot of good parts.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's people who redo them and everything.
I need somebody to make 88 Nova twin cam parts.
Yeah, someone get on that.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a huge market of 2 people.
And the Prism, too.
And the Prism, yes. Thank you.
I keep waiting for 3D printing to work its way into replacing plastic parts for classic cars, but so far, other than like a few places a few builders I've seen who've done lenses, like no one seems to be going in that direction.
I wish they would, because I think that's a big problem with especially a lot of these Ridewood era cars, is that some of them just weren't made in big enough numbers to support aftermarket. So you really need somebody to make 3D printed parts. And or your only choice is eBay or junkyards, and that's it. Get on that, Paul.
Yeah, no, I honestly think that something in the future will come about where it will become easy enough to make something at home if you were so...
I hope so. Yeah.
If you're so willing to do so, where you can buy your own machine and make your own things. So if you wanted to, you can buy a machine that's the size of your coffee table to make you a new dashboard. But you just plug in the dimensions, or I don't know. I'm not a technology guy, but I think it can.
Somebody could do that.
But
somebody could do
gig
it.
economy. I don't want the machine. I don't want to store
Yes,
the machine.
exactly.
I want to pay someone else to make one part for me.
Yes, I want Uber printing, please.
Yeah.
I just want. I think I'd make a ton of stuff with it. So I
You want the
Fine,
machine.
we'll pay you.
I want the
Get on
machine.
it.
I'll buy the machine and I'll make
I
everybody
need
their
a
parts.
new dashboard for a 1991 GeoPrism GSI.
You got it. I need the little cover for my seatbelt thing on the charade.
Okay, the
so.
dashboard's gonna be a little harder, so that
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple $100 for it.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Sweet.
Awesome. You got a new job.
I did.
Sweet. All right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to end. Where can everybody find you on the internets?
Challenge her on Instagram. Challenge her on Twitter. Challenge her on YouTube.
Yes. Okay.
Elana Scherr on Facebook. And if Edmund's YouTube channel. And Hot Rod Magazine, Automobile Magazine, Car and Driver Magazine,
There you go.
Road
So
and
everywhere.
Track Magazine,
Just
Auto
Google your
Week,
name.
Just
Okay. Now you're just.
now I'm just showing off.
Yeah, exactly. And you have an email newsletter. You can
I
talk
do have a
about
newsletter,
that.
but oh my God, I'm way behind on
Uh-oh.
actually doing anything on it.
That's that damn book that's getting in the way
It
of it. Yeah.
is. But yeah, look me up. You'll find me.
All right. Just Google
And
it.
I'll be happy to see you.
All right. What about you, Paul?
Everyone can find me at Instagram on Paul's Finest Hour, and the same on Twitter. And
Have you tweeted recently? I don't think you have. Maybe every once in a while.
no, I just like to like things. That's
Okay.
kind of
You
what
just
I'm
like
on there
stuff.
for.
Okay.
Yeah, just to hit the little heart button.
Yes. All right. It's fun. You can give people some love.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And I'm at youtube.com/Hello Road. Mr. Ethan Tufts at Instagram and Twitter. And I think that's a good podcast right there.
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
I
you.
feel very satisfied by this podcast.
Great. Cool. And you have a very short drive home.
I could walk.
Yeah, you could walk. You should. All right. Thanks.
Good night, everyone.